Welcome back to the deep dive. So we often look at language through, a very academic or business-focused lens.
Right.
But today, based on the sources you all sent in, we're diving into one of the most socially charged environments there is, the restaurant.
It's a fantastic topic because our mission here isn't just about survival. It's about how specific words can elevate your entire experience.
Exactly. We're looking at how you move beyond just, getting fed and into a place of real social and linguistic mastery.
That's the perfect way to frame it. I mean, so many learners get to that A2, maybe B1 level. They can order, they can get a table, they survive.
They don't starve.
They won't starve. But we're aiming higher. We're looking for that C1, that C2 level of proficiency. This is all about understanding the subtext.
The strategy.
The strategy. It's the difference between functional communication and, strategic communication. We're going to explore the linguistic tools you can use to really shape the whole evening.
I love that. It's not a vocabulary list. It's more like a manual for social influence. And the sources give us this amazing spectrum from the absolute basics to, the high-level connoisseur stuff. So let's start with that baseline. We have to cover the essential survival guide, but we won't stay there long.
No, we'll move quickly.
And then we'll pivot hard into the C1 masterclass, the sophisticated negotiation, the menu jargon, all the specialized language that really sets a knowledgeable diner apart. Let's start the clock right at the front door. Okay, so section 1. Before we get into any of the fancy stuff, we have to establish that polite, functional baseline. I mean, if you can't do these basic things clearly, none of the advanced strategies are going to help you.
Absolutely not. It all starts at the entrance. The very first interaction is with the gatekeeper of the dining room.
And who is that exactly?
That's the host, if it's a man, or the hostess, if it's a woman. They're the person managing the tables, usually standing right by the door at a little desk or podium. They are your first point of contact.
And that first impression is critical. Even before a word is spoken, right? There's a universal signal that people often forget when they're nervous or in a rush.
Oh, definitely. It's the power of nonverbal communication.
Ugh.
A warm, friendly smile. That's it. It's the universal welcome.
It sounds so simple.
It is, but it's so powerful. It immediately tells them, I'm a calm, cooperative person. In a high-stress service environment, that little gesture just smooths the path for everything that comes next.
It sets the stage. Okay, so you've smiled. Now you have to speak. A lot of learners might try to translate a whole complex sentence from their own language. What's the leanest, most effective phrase?
The magic key phrase, as I like to call it, is beautifully simple. It just needs to cover 3 things. What you want, for how many, and a touch of politeness.
And that phrase is?
A table for 2, please.
Let's just break that down for a second. It's brilliant. It doesn't use the word want, which can sound a bit demanding.
A little blunt, yeah.
It focuses on the object, a table. It clarifies the size, for 2, and then that little magic word, please. It's perfect.
It's the ideal mix of efficiency and politeness. And the beauty of it is how easily it adapts. You just swap out the number.
Right. So if you're with your family...
You walk up confidently and say, a table for 5, please.
And for someone dining alone, which is happening more and more.
No need to overthink it. It's just a table for 1, please. It's the foundation. If you can say that one sentence clearly, you've achieved your first goal.
Okay, but what's the next step? This works if the restaurant is half empty. What about a busy Friday night? The host is going to have a question for you.
Inevitably. They're going to ask about a reservation.
Let's define that. A reservation or sometimes a booking in British English.
It's your guarantee. It means you called ahead of time, maybe a few hours, maybe a few days, to save your spot. The host's question, do you have a reservation, is their first tool for managing the chaos.
So let's say you were organized. You have one. How do you answer?
You affirm, and then you give them the key piece of information. You say, yes, I do. It's under the name Smith.
And that little phrase, under the name, is the standard, right?
That's the one. It's the universal code. They'll look at their list or their screen, find you, and you're in.
Okay, but what if you're being spontaneous? You've just walked in off the street.
Then you just need simple clarity. A simple, no, I don't. Or if you're in a group, no, we don't. That's all you need to say.
Yeah.
No excuses, no long story.
Right. And if you don't have a reservation and the place is packed, the host has to deliver the bad news. How do they usually phrase that wait?
Well, they'll be polite about it. They'll soften the blow. They'll say something like, I'm sorry, but we're quite busy right now. There will be a short wait.
That word short is doing a lot of psychological work there.
A lot. Even if short turns out to be 30 minutes. But they have to give you an estimate so you can decide what to do.
So they'll say,
the wait is about 20 minutes, or we're looking at maybe half an hour. Understanding that number is obviously key.
Which brings us to the decision point. You've got the time estimate. You need to be ready with one of two clear responses.
Exactly. If you're staying, you just confirm it. Okay, we'll wait. Simple.
And if you're not, if the wait's too long,
You exit gracefully. You say, oh, okay, thank you anyway. Goodbye. You never make them feel bad. You just acknowledge the information and move on.
perfect. Okay, so we've made it through the door, we've waited, and now we're at the table. The server or waiter or waitress comes over. What's the opening line of their script?
Their first move is usually about getting you settled with a drink. It gives you time to look at the menu. So they'll almost always open with, can I get you something to drink to start?
And this brings us to what you call the golden phrase for ordering, the one that works for everything.
It's the most useful tool in your kit at this level. It's the polite conditional, I would like.
Or, more commonly in spoken English, the contraction.
I'd like. Exactly, I'd like. It's polite but not stuffy, and it clearly states your choice.
Let's just show how flexible it is. For a drink, I'd like some water, please.
For your main course, I'd like the pepperoni pizza, please.
A side dish, I'd like the fries, please. It just works for everything.
Everything. It's the Swiss Army knife of ordering, and it moves you through the whole meal without having to learn 10 different phrases.
You also mentioned a great alternative just to have some variety.
Yes, the question format. Can I have a lemonade, please? It's a little more informal than I'd like, but it's perfectly common and polite.
And in both cases, the crucial final word is
Please. Always. It's the single most important word in any service interaction.
okay. So the meal's over, it was great, and now it's time to handle the financial part. We need to ask for that piece of paper.
That piece of paper is the bill in the UK or the check in the US. It's good to know both.
Right. And how do you get a busy server's attention to ask for it?
First, you have to catch their eye. A small nod, maybe a slight lift of the hand. You don't want to shout across the room.
And once you have their attention,
The shortest, clearest request is simply, the bill, please. Or the check, please.
that's the bare minimum. What's a slightly fuller, more courteous way to ask?
You can add a little softener at the beginning. Excuse me, can we have the bill, please? That excuse me acknowledges you're interrupting them.
I like that. Okay, so the bill is paid. We're ready to leave. What's the final piece of the puzzle? The graceful exit.
It's the last impression you make. Don't just get up and bolt for the door. As you walk out, try to make eye contact with your server or the host.
And say what?
A simple, sincere compliment. Not just thanks. Say something like, thank you, that was lovely, or everything was delicious. It closes the loop on a positive note.
So to sum up this whole first section, the A2B1 level is all about being clear, efficient, and polite. Using those softeners like please.
Absolutely. At this stage, you're fitting into the restaurant system, but now we're going to talk about how a C1 or C2 speaker uses language to make the system adapt to them.
Okay, let's make that shift. Right, this is where things get really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We're moving beyond survival. We're talking about actively designing the experience you want.
Exactly. The advanced diner doesn't just react. They use language to proactively shape the evening. Think of it as social architecture.
And this architecture starts before you even walk through the door, right? With the reservation call.
That's the first move. A basic learner might call up and say, I want to book a table.
Which is functional, but it sounds a bit blunt, a bit demanding.
It does. A C1 speaker softens that language to show flexibility. Instead of I want, you use a more conditional, more deferential phrase.
Like what?
Like, hi, I was hoping to book a table for 2 for Saturday evening, perhaps around 8 o'clock.
I was hoping to book. That's such a great phrase. Why is it so effective?
Because you're immediately signaling that you understand they might be full. You're opening a negotiation, not issuing a command. It makes the host want to help you. And adding perhaps around 8 tells them you have a bit of flexibility on the time, which they always appreciate.
That subtlety is everything. But the real mastery is moving beyond just getting any table to getting the right table.
Yeah.
How do you make specific requests for, say, a better location?
You phrase them as preferences, not demands. You could say, if it's at all possible, we'd love a table with a view. Or, if you're looking for privacy, you can use more evocative language.
What kind of language?
You could ask for a more intimate setting. Or even better, you can use specific vocabulary, like a quiet nook or a booth.
Okay, let's define those. A nook is like a small, cozy, semi-private corner.
Exactly. And a booth is that bench-style seating, usually against a wall, that offers a bit more privacy than a freestanding table.
And using words like nook or booth instantly signals something to the host, doesn't it?
It signals that you're a discerning customer. You understand the layout of a dining room. You're not just asking for a good table. You're specifying the type of good table you want. It elevates the whole conversation.
And there's one more powerful strategy here, mentioning a special occasion. This feels like a simple piece of information, but it's really a strategic move.
Oh, it's a masterclass in indirect communication. You might say on the phone, we're actually celebrating our anniversary, so we're really looking forward to a special evening.
You haven't asked for anything directly.
Not a thing. But you've planted a very powerful seed. The restaurant staff now sees an opportunity to create a memorable experience.
And what does that translate to in practice?
It could mean they give you their best table. It could mean more attentive service. And very often, it means a small complimentary gesture, a glass of champagne, a free dessert with a candle. You've motivated them to go the extra mile without ever having to ask.
That's brilliant. Okay, so we've made the perfect reservation. Now we arrive. How do you check in with that C1 precision?
You state the key facts clearly and efficiently. Good evening. We have a reservation for 2 at 80 under the name Johnson. It's confident, organized, and leaves no room for error.
Okay, but here comes the hard part. The host leads you to a table you really don't want. It's next to the kitchen door or right by a drafty window. How do you negotiate a move without sounding rude?
This is all about nuanced vocabulary. The number one rule is, do not directly complain about the table.
So you don't say, I don't like this table.
Never. Let's say the problem is that it's too exposed, too public. You would ask for a table that is a little less conspicuous.
Conspicuous, that's a great C1 word, meaning, easily seen or attracting a lot of attention. So by asking for the opposite, you're delicately asking for privacy.
Precisely. Or let's say the issue is noise. It's too loud. A crude approach is to say, it's too loud here.
What's the sophisticated alternative?
You soften it with a compliment first. You say, wow, the ambiance in here is fantastic, so energetic.
You start positive.
Always. Then you pivot. But I was wondering, would you happen to have a table where the acoustics are a little softer? It might be a bit easier for us to chat.
That's so clever. You've reframed the problem. It's not their fault it's loud. It's a matter of acoustics affecting your conversation.
Exactly. And my favorite move is for when tables are too close together. You can frame your desire for space as a concern for your neighbors.
How would that sound?
You could say, I wonder if there might be a table with a little more separation. We'd hate to impose on our neighbors' conversation.
That is just a masterstroke of diplomacy. You're making your request for privacy sound like an act of politeness towards someone else. The host almost has to agree.
It completely changes the dynamic. You've gone from being a demanding customer to a considerate one.
So you've negotiated the perfect table. Now the server arrives. We already said using their name is a good start.
It's the most powerful, simple thing you can do. If they say, hi, my name is Daniel, you immediately respond with, Daniel, great to meet you. Thanks for taking care of us.
It makes it personal, not transactional.
Instantly. And that rapport is the perfect setup for what I call the strategic inquiry.
And what's that?
It's about asking an intelligent question right at the start that shows you value the server's expertise and that you're an engaged diner.
Give me an example.
A great one is, before we even look at the menus, could you tell us if there are any specials this evening that aren't written down?
I see. What does that signal?
It signals that you're interested in what the chef is truly excited about tonight, not just the standard fare. You're looking for insider knowledge, and you're positioning the server as your expert guide. The rapport deepens immediately.
So by the time the water is poured, you've used subtle language to secure the best environment, build a personal connection, and signal that you're a serious, knowledgeable diner who appreciates good service.
That's the C1 arrival. You've set the stage for a perfect meal.
Okay, so we're seated at our perfect table, we've built rapport, now we're handed the menu. And as you said earlier, a modern menu, especially in a fine dining context, is, well, it's more than just a list of food.
Oh, it's absolutely a piece of literature. It's a marketing document. Every word is chosen to evoke a feeling, to tell a story, and frankly, to justify the price. The C2 speaker knows how to read between the lines.
So let's crack that code. We can start with those adjectives of quality and origin, what some people call food poetry.
Let's start with the big one, artisanal. You see it everywhere. Artisanal bread, artisanal cheese. What is that word actually selling you?
It's selling craftsmanship. It's the opposite of factory made. It tells you a skilled person, an artisan, made this using traditional methods. It implies care, quality, and uniqueness.
And therefore, it implies it's worth more money. It's a narrative in one word. Okay, how about heritage Or heirloom. You often see heirloom tomatoes in the summer.
This one is about history, about lineage. It's telling you this isn't some modern, genetically modified vegetable bread for long shelf life. This is an old, traditional variety, which implies it has a deeper, more authentic flavor.
Exactly. It's a story of authenticity. And that connects directly to our next word, which is a very important one, provenance.
You might see something like pork with a provenance from the Lake District.
Right. So provenance just means the origin or source.
Right.
But on a menu, it's a huge signal. It's the restaurant telling you they care deeply about where their ingredients come from.
It's the farm-to-table narrative. It suggests ethical sourcing, supporting local farmers, and a short, transparent journey from the field to your plate.
All of which, again, justifies a higher price point. A basic restaurant just serves pork. A sophisticated one serves pork with a story, a provenance. And the last one in this category, the most romantic of all, foraged.
Foraged wild mushrooms?
Yes. Foraging is searching for food in the wild. When you see this word, it screams rarity, seasonality, and a connection to nature. It paints a picture of the chef wandering through a forest that morning to find your ingredients.
It's a mythical quality. It's the ultimate antidote to the industrial food system.
It is. It promises an experience you simply can't get anywhere else.
Okay, let's shift from the ingredients themselves to the preparation. There's a whole jargon around modern cooking techniques. Let's start with one that can be confusing. Deconstructed.
Yes. Deconstructed cheesecake.
What does that actually mean is going to arrive at your table?
It means the components of a classic dish will be presented separately. So for a cheesecake, you might get a smear of cream cheese filling, a crumble of the biscuit base, and some fruit compote, all arranged artfully on the plate.
So it's an intellectual dish. The chef is playing with your expectations of a familiar classic.
It's a signal of an experimental, almost avant-garde kitchen. It's not about comfort, it's about making you think.
Right, and the other big technical term that signals a very different kind of modernity is sous vide.
Sous vide is French for under vacuum. It's a very precise cooking method where food is sealed in a plastic bag and cooked very slowly in a temperature-controlled water bath.
So when I see that on a menu next to a piece of chicken or fish, what should I expect?
You should expect technical perfection. The result is food that is incredibly tender and moist, cooked perfectly evenly from edge to center. It tells you the kitchen is invested in expensive, modern equipment and values consistency and precision above all else.
So we've got adjectives for the food, terms for the techniques. What about the verbs? You almost never see the word cooked on a high-end menu.
No, because it's too generic. They use specific, evocative verbs that tell you about texture and flavor. For a piece of meat or fish, you'll often see pan-seared.
And that tells me it was cooked quickly in a very hot pan.
Right. And the result of that is a delicious brown crust, that Maillard reaction, while the inside stays perfectly juicy. The verb itself is a promise of texture.
Okay, what about for vegetables? A common one is blanched.
Blanching is a two-step process. A quick dip in boiling water, then straight into ice water to stop the cooking.
So if I see blanched asparagus, I know it's going to be
Crisp, bright green, and fresh tasting. Not soft or mushy, it signals a light, vibrant style of cooking.
And one more, which is crucial for things like salmon or ham, cured.
Curing is about preserving with salt, sugar, and thyme, not with heat. So when you see cured salmon, you know to expect that unique, delicate, almost silky texture that you can only get from that process.
It really is like learning a new language. You're decoding the chef's entire philosophy just by carefully reading their choice of words.
And once you can speak that language, you can engage with the menu and the staff on a much deeper level.
Which is the perfect transition. We've decoded the menu, now it's time to actually order. And for the C2 speaker, this isn't just about listing your choices, it's about opening a dialogue.
Exactly. This is where you use strategic inquiries and graceful modifications to co-create your meal with the kitchen.
Now, some people might worry that asking questions makes them sound annoying or fussy.
It's the opposite if you do it right. Asking intelligent questions shows you're taking the food seriously. It shows you're an engaged diner, and the staff usually appreciates that. It starts with what you call the intrigue opener.
Right, so let's say the menu just has a vague market fish of the day. How do you begin that inquiry?
You start with a compliment that invites them to share more. You say, I was really intrigued by the market fish. Could you tell me a little more about it?
I was intrigued. That's such a great positive way to frame it. It's not what is it? It's an invitation.
It is, and the server will then give you the details. It's sea-based, pan-seared with a lemon butter sauce. But a C2 speaker doesn't stop there. They drill down.
They follow up. How so?
They ask a specific, sophisticated question that shows they have a refined palate. So instead of just saying, oh, sounds nice, you ask, that sounds exquisite. Is the sauce very rich, or is it on the lighter side?
Ah, you're asking about the weight, the balance of the dish.
Precisely. You're demonstrating that you think about how flavors and textures work together. It's a high-level move that completely changes the server's perception of you.
Okay, that's inquiring. Now, for the really tricky part. Making requests, asking for a modification. This is where you can easily come across as demanding.
This is the ultimate test of social grace. The cardinal rule is to use indirect language and always, always acknowledge that you're asking for something extra.
Let's take a common one. Swapping a side dish. You want a salad instead of fries. How do you phrase that masterfully?
You use the magic word, imposition. You ask, I was wondering, would it be a huge imposition to substitute the fries for a side salad?
An imposition is an unreasonable demand. So by asking if it would be one, you're showing incredible politeness and awareness.
And you're giving them the power to grant you a favor. The answer will almost always be, of course not an imposition at all. You've made it easy for them to say yes.
Another great linguistic tool for this is using dramatic adverbs.
Yes. For example, if you want the sauce on the side, you can say, would it be terribly difficult to get the dressing on the side?
That word terribly is doing so much work, it's almost comically polite.
It is. It adds this layer of exaggerated deference that makes the request impossible to refuse. It's a very common softener in English.
What about personal preferences, like spiciness? You don't want to insult the chef's seasoning.
So you frame it as a personal limitation, not a criticism of the dish. You ask for their advice. You know, I'm not very good with a lot of heat. Do you think this curry would be too spicy for me?
So you're collaborating with them to avoid a problem, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
And that same collaborative spirit applies when there's an actual error, right? Like they bring you the wrong dish.
Oh, absolutely. This is critical. You must avoid accusation. You never say, you brought me the wrong food. You use language that removes blame. You say, oh, excuse me, I think there may have been a slight misunderstanding. I had ordered the chicken.
The slight misunderstanding. It's so diplomatic. It allows for a correction without anyone losing face.
It's just professional problem solving. And one last advanced move, controlling the pace of the meal. If you feel like they're rushing you.
Yes. When your main course arrives 2 minutes after your appetizer.
You can politely take control by saying, just to let you know, we're in no rush at all this evening, so please feel free to pace the courses out for us.
You're not complaining. You're just giving them a helpful instruction framed as a preference.
You've become the conductor of your own dining experience.
Okay, so the perfect dish, modified to your exact preference, has arrived. Now you have to talk about it. And a C2 speaker needs to go beyond just saying delicious.
We need a more precise and powerful vocabulary of praise. For a top-level impression, if a dish is just beautiful, refined, and perfectly crafted, the word is exquisite.
The scallops were absolutely exquisite.
Perfect. Now, if a dish is so good it's almost a spiritual experience, it inspires awe.
For that, you use sublime, but you use it sparingly.
Very sparingly. It's for something truly transcendent. And my favorite, which gives credit to the chef's artistry, is to call a dish a triumph.
That dessert was a triumph. It sounds so grand.
It is. It frames it as a great achievement. Now, let's get more specific. Flavor. How do we describe a pleasantly sharp, bright flavor, like from a lemon?
You could say pungent or zesty. The dressing was wonderfully zesty.
Exactly. And for a deep, strong, full-bodied flavor, like a slow-cooked beef stew.
The word for that is robust. A very robust and complex sauce.
Perfect. And what about the opposite? A very delicate, understated flavor that a novice might miss.
That's a subtle flavor, and praising subtlety is a real sign of a sophisticated palate.
It absolutely is. Now for texture, or mouthfeel, for something smooth, rich, and creamy, like a mousse or a puree.
The word is velvety. The soup had a velvety texture.
And for something that's rich and oily in a luxurious, indulgent way, like a perfect piece of pork belly or a rich sauce.
That's the great C2 word, unctuous. Sounds a bit strange, but in a food context, it's a high compliment.
It really is. And finally, for something impossibly light and delicate that just melts in your mouth.
You can be poetic and call it ethereal. The meringue was ethereal.
So we have all this amazing language for praise, but we also need to be prepared for the opposite, how to complain eloquently.
This is a high wire act.
It is, and it always begins with a softener. I'm so sorry to be a bother, but... Or, excuse me, I hate to have to say this, but...
You signal your reluctance. And then you state the problem using subjective personal language.
Exactly. You never state it as an objective fact. It's not, this steak is tough. It's
I'm finding my steak to be a little on the tough side.
precisely. Or if your soup is cold, it's not my soup is cold. It's, I'm afraid my soup seems to have gone a bit cold. You're just gently reporting your own experience.
You're treating the complaint not as a fight, but as a collaborative effort to fix a small problem and get the evening back on track.
That is the essence of a polite, effective complaint.
Okay, we are approaching the end of the meal. And this is where we get into some highly ritualized territory, starting with wine and the sommelier.
Ah, yes, the sommelier, the wine expert.
Yeah.
The goal here is a very delicate balance. You want to sound knowledgeable enough to have a real conversation, but not so arrogant that you're dismissing their expertise.
And all while trying to manage your budget without looking cheap.
That's the trick. It all starts with having the right technical vocabulary. For red wines, the two key concepts are body and tannins.
Okay, let's define body. What does that mean?
Body is the feeling of weight or richness of the wine in your mouth. Think of the difference between skim milk and heavy cream. So you can ask for a wine that is full-bodied and robust, or the opposite, something a little lighter on the palate.
And tannins. I know they come from the grape skins. What do they feel like?
Tannins are what create that drying, slightly bitter sensation in your mouth, especially with big red wines. It's an astringency. So if you don't like that feeling, you can ask for a wine with soft tannins. It shows you understand wine structure.
And this applies to white wines too, but with different vocabulary. We're talking about the flavor profile.
Exactly. If you want a dry, refreshing white, you'd ask for something crisp and zesty with good minerality.
Minerality is a tricky word. What does it taste like?
It's not a fruit flavor. It's a flavor that reminds you of, well, minerals, whetstones, slate, chalk. It's a sign of complexity and elegance in a white wine.
And the alternative, for a richer white wine, maybe one aged in oak.
You'd ask for something with more complexity and a buttery texture. That buttery feel is a classic characteristic of an oak Chardonnay, for example.
Okay, this is all great, but it brings us to the most delicate part, the budget. How do you signal your price range to the sommelier without actually saying, I only want to spend $50?
There is a classic, subtle, nonverbal technique for this. When they hand you the wine list, you find a wine that is in your price range. You point to it, and you ask a question about that specific wine.
So you'd point and say, this one looks interesting. Could you tell me a bit about it?
Exactly. A good sommelier will understand that signal instantly. They now know your approximate budget. They won't recommend a bottle that's 3 times the price. They'll suggest other options that are in that same financial ballpark. It's an elegant, unspoken communication.
That is a fantastic tip. Okay, so they bring the bottle, they pour you a small amount. What is the purpose of this tasting ritual?
This is so often misunderstood. The purpose is one thing and one thing only: to check if the wine is corked.
Meaning, has it gone bad?
Yes. A corked wine has been contaminated, and it will have a very distinct, unpleasant smell, like damp cardboard or a wet basement. You are not tasting to see if you like it. You've already chosen it. You're performing a quality check on that specific bottle.
So, assuming it's fine, what do you say?
Something simple and brief. You give it a swirl, a sniff, maybe a tiny sip, and you just nod and say, "That's lovely, thank you," or "Perfect." That's it. The ritual is complete.
Okay, so the wine was perfect, the meal is over. Now for the final social challenge. The payment dance.
It really is a dance. First, you have to signal you're ready. Non-verbally, you can put your napkin on the table. Verbally, you can say to the server, whenever you have a moment, we're ready to settle up.
Settle up. That's a great natural phrasal verb.
Okay.
The bill arrives, and person A wants to pay for everyone. What's the opening move?
Person A says, "Let me get this." Or the very common idiom, "This one's on me."
And at this point, person B is socially required to protest, right?
Absolutely. It's part of the script. Person B has to say something like, "Oh no, are you sure? We can split it." It shows you don't take their generosity for granted.
And then person A has to override the protest.
With the closing line, "No, no, I insist. It was my pleasure." That phrase, "I insist," is the signal that the offer is final and should be accepted.
And if you're person B and you accept, you have to do one more thing to rebalance the social scales.
You have to promise reciprocity. You say, "Well, thank you so much. You absolutely must let me get the next one." This ensures the social debt is acknowledged and will be repaid.
What if you actually do want to split it?
The simple phrase is, "Shall we split it?" Or the old-fashioned idiom, "Shall we go Dutch?"
But what if one person had a huge steak and lots of wine, and the other just had a salad? Splitting it evenly doesn't feel fair.
The socially aware person, the one who ordered more, should be the one to address this. They should say, hey, let's not split it evenly. I had the steak, so I should definitely pay a larger share.
It shows consideration and avoids any potential resentment.
It's a very classy move.
Okay, the final and often most confusing part of the payment, the tip or gratuity. This is so culturally dependent.
It is. You have to read the bill very carefully. If it says service charge included, the tip is already on there. You don't need to add more.
And if it says service is not included,
then a tip is expected, and you need to calculate it and add it on, usually 15 to 20% in places like the U.S.
And the trickiest one, discretionary service charge.
The key word is discretionary, which means optional. Now, 99% of the time, if the service was fine, you just pay it. But that word gives you an out if the service was truly, truly terrible.
But asking to have it removed is a huge deal.
It's a major social negotiation. You'd have to use all the polite complaint language we talked about earlier. I'm so sorry, but the service was really not up to standard tonight, and since the charge is discretionary, I'd like to ask for it to be removed. It's a very high level and hopefully very rare situation.
And that's it. The money is handled. All that's left is the exit.
The graceful exit. As you leave, you make eye contact one last time with the host or your server, you smile, and you give one final summary compliment.
Something like,
"Thank you, that was a wonderful evening," or "Everything was superb, we'll be back." It leaves everyone feeling good and completes the entire performance on a high note.
when you lay it all out like that, you really see it's a performance. It's a transformation from just communicating needs to strategically shaping an entire social event.
That's it exactly. For the proficient speaker, the restaurant is a stage. And English isn't just a script for ordering food, it's the tool you use to direct the entire production, to elevate it from a simple meal into a memorable, sophisticated experience.
Which is such a powerful way to think about language learning. So for everyone listening, now that you understand the strategy behind every phrase, from asking for a quiet nook to the subtle dance of paying the bill, how will you use this to turn your next dinner out into your own sophisticated performance? Really pay attention to that subtext next time you're in a restaurant.
And that brings up a final thought for you to consider. We spent a lot of time on the vocabulary of high praise, exquisite, sublime, a triumph. But what about the other side? If you wanted to sound like a true professional food critic, what specific, precise words would you use to describe a dish that wasn't bad, but was just utterly mediocre? Uninspired, forgettable, lacking in character, the vocabulary of polite, incisive disappointment is a whole other level of mastery.
Something to think about. Until next time, thank you for joining us at The Deep Dive.
Happy time!